Daises is a 1966 Czechoslovakian surrealist film written and directed by Vera Chytilova. In it, we follow the lives of brunette and blonde Marie after they came to the realization that the world was spoiled. As a result, they commit to spoiling themselves by tricking men and eating as much as possible. In this video, we will provide an in-depth analysis of its context, genre, and we will also take a look at one of the most vital scenes from the film.
And yet they are not full. They just take.
Can you name your film successful?
And then everyone just like sheep. Empty-headed. Come on, man.
Hello Vera, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming to do this interview. Why did you decide to shoot Daisies? What was the idea?
Well, as someone who's from Czechoslovakia, I feel like you should already know this. But anyways, 1948 to 1989, right? Those were some tough years to put it lightly. Those were the years of totalitarian rule in Czechoslovakia, and all the decisions had to be made by the Soviet Union. Those who did not comply were put under surveillance or intimidated. The communists were hypocrites. In the end, everything turned out to be about money and how to get money and everything. And there even was like a food shortage, and no one cared. At first, we pulled back. We thought that was the end. But then, when the opportunity to make films arose, there was a decision to be made. Making films became a mission. We were there. We were the members of the nation that was helpless, so it was necessary to speak up. Yes, the film industry was nationalized, which wasn't ideal, but it was an opportunity that we filmmakers had to take. So I wasn't unfaithful in any way. I definitely didn't collaborate with them, but I had to trick them in order to criticize them. This is born as a result of this. It was a response to the situation. It is meant to expose the hypocrisies of a materialistic society through altruism. The Maries, they just want to eat, and so we give them every piece of food in the world. And yet they are not full. They just take.
Would you say your film belongs to a certain movement?
I mean, of course. I think it pretty much fits the Czechoslovakian way, right? Like, come on, man. I am in the same movement, the same group as Mitch Foreman, Jim Mansell, and Dan Nemec. I think we were all just trying new things. We wanted to see our limits, and it was terrifying, but it was fascinating at the same time. We wanted to speak out, doing what we knew how to do best.
Can you name your film successful? Do you think it reached the proper audience?
I mean, I guess it became successful, but it took quite a lot of time for this to happen. The US and the UK critics, it was received with a lot of salary. That fucking guy, Bosley Crowther, from the New York Times, I remember, he called the Maurice empty-headed. Empty-headed. I mean, come on. Don't even get me started on the UK. Like, the US people, they were giving me kisses on the cheek in comparison to the other ones. I remember that in the Daily Telegraph, Eric Shorter called it plainly Britannica, whatever that fucking means. And then everyone, just like sheep, they were just like, it's too absurd, it's too obvious. Like, they could see the meaning. Like, I mean, it was just blah, blah, blah. It's, like, I guess, I don't know, because it was also banned. The movie was originally banned by the government, the Soviets, sorry. I guess I don't really know about success, or at least original success, but I do believe that the film did gain the audience eventually, and it became understood, and I'm really glad it eventually did.
What was the inspiration behind this film?
Well, there was definitely a lot of Brechtian influence. I don't expect you to know what it is regarding the questions that you've been asking me, so I'll just explain. explain it. So it's basically a style that relies on the audience's reflective detachment rather than the emotional involvement. Aesthetically, there was this climate of experimentation with painting and sculpture in Czechoslovakia in the 1960s, and it's something that I enjoy quite a lot, and you can see a lot of it in my film.
Thank you so much for the interview. Have a good day. What's her full name? I'm gonna try and say
Vera Chitilova. Chitilova.
Chitilova. Hello, Vera Chitilova. How are you? Thank you for doing this interview. Vera. Vera!
Are we done?
Yes, Vera. Thank you so much for the interview.
This fucker is so fucking stupid. I mean, such a waste of time. Fucking Americans.
Chitilova's Daises demolished the passive trend of acceptance of the social realist art movement of the time period. Much like her characters, Chitilova entered as a Trojan horse in the Prague Spring period when Czech censorship standards were relaxed and, quote, used the moment of heightened artistic freedom to make a statement about modernity that took in its sweeping vision, the local as well as the universal, end quote. Together with other artists within the Prague Spring movement, she captured the human experience and with Daises, quote, reflected on the danger of valorizing emancipation when emancipation is itself a neutral concept capable of producing either autonomy or destructive consumption, end quote. The works of this time period influenced similar ones to come and became a paragon of the Czech New Wave movement that was responsible for putting Czechoslovakia on the map as a creator of critically acclaimed films. The movement became a notable source of information for foreign audiences, offering insight into the Eastern Europeans' public sentiments on the Cold War regime. Its success was largely owed to its display of, quote, understated humanism, it being perceived as an antidote to Western filmic excess, or even for the exotic catch-it in a fickle market, end quote. Although many influential figures, such as director Jean-Luc Godard, believed Daises to be apolitical and cartoonish. However, this approach failed to encompass the socialist realist aesthetic adopted post-World War II in the Stalinist government countries. Much like other works of art in the Czechoslovakian 1960s, Daises functioned as a preeminent work of stark contrast between the, quote, vision of a state-designed utopia, end quote, and the reality of daily Eastern European society. This was observed in its satirical tone and cuts of physical destruction of property, which was shown in the opening scene of the film, alongside the societal critique shared between the two Maries. As accurately worded in the Pop Matters article, Daises, hand in hand with other artistic pieces of the era, continued a, quote, joint dialogue with a post-totalitarian political conscience, end quote. A dialogue that was characterized by its honest depiction of sexuality and exploration of national identity. Nevertheless, the Czech New Wave was primarily an artistic movement, not a political one. The movement ended with the collapse of communism, since revolutionary work cannot occur without something to revolt against. Daises abandons the documentary style of the Czech New Wave and instead reflects characteristics of underground cinema by placing a heavy emphasis on the artistic aspect based around surreal abstract imagery. The use of flowers, absurd and bizarre dialogues, unfettered behavior of actresses, the use of unpredictable editing rhythms, fast cuts from dialogue to images of disaster, and Adam and Eve's metaphorical flower garden are just examples of some aspects in which the film strays from the classic characteristics of the Czech New Wave. Vera Chitilova's overall implementation of chaos and the actress's mocking attitude of the conformist society opposes Stalinist politics. The first shots of the destroyed houses and the final scene of the two Maries walking on the destruction caused by Soviet colonial policies are the only scenes that convey explicit political meaning. I can't even do anything.
So what can we do?
We can't do anything. So, what can we do? What are you doing?
Being a doll. I look like a doll, don't I? I am doll.
I see.
Can you understand that?
Nobody understands anything.
Nikdo nás nechápe. Všechno se nám kazí na tom světě.
What do you mean everything?
Well, everything.
In this world.
You know what? If everything is going bad,
So,
we're going
bad as well. Right? Do you mind? No, I don't.
This is the scene where we meet the Maries. In puppet-like positions and with movements that are accompanied by robotic squeaks, the Maries decide to play a game of it matters, it doesn't matter. According to Chatilova, this game, if played systematically and for prestige, may lead to death. Here, Chatilova holds up a mirror towards her audience and criticizes them for their passivity under communist shadow. She is showing how absurd adopting this mindset is. Still, as the director mentioned, this type of attitude does not last, setting the tone and foreshadowing what the Marie's conclusion will be like. They are almost addressing the viewer directly by almost looking straight into the camera. However, they are unable to do so. Even when they are looking straight ahead, they are only addressing one another. This happens due to the fact that they are living in their own bubble, one that is eventually and non-surprisingly going to burst before the credits start rolling. This scene is one that stands out from the rest since our protagonist tells explicitly what it is that we are about to witness. It is the only scene in the film that is willing to help the viewer out because besides this one, the audience has to put in the effort to give the film meaning. For this scene, the angle framing matches the subject's height and we see the Maries sitting down. There is no color to be found besides black and white. This does not seem important in and of itself. However, once it is put in contrast with the rest of the film, it stands out. It is in this scene when they decide to be as spoiled as the world is, and once this decision is taken, color is invited to the film almost instantly. The contrast of this makes the viewer understand that before the decision was taken, their lives lacked energy and enthusiasm. They lacked color. Finally, for the costume design, both girls are in bikinis. They are also adopting a doll-like attitude. It is in this way that they are being depicted that we see what society expects women to behave like. They are being passive, and at the same time, they are being objectified. They stand still and do not say or do much. However, this is not an attitude that they intend to keep after the scene comes to an end. Through its plot, Daises incorporates a wide array of social and philosophical themes, such as a, quote, critique of the effectiveness of radical resistance, the extent to which oppressive ideologies coerce behavior, and the oppression, objectification, and the marginalization of women in society, to name a few. The farcical way through which they ruin society that gives the film its philosophical strength. In its overly stylized farcical fashion, the film made an unforgettable statement about the depth of our human condition and our tendency to descend into a marionette-like existence at our own hands. We are welcomed into a state of complete awareness, and there is no turning back. Vera, what are your thoughts on the Stalinist government? Yeah, I agree.